everyone, this is Professor Marcel Rominger. This is Module 8, and in this video we are going to talk about chord inversions. Okay, so before we go on, please take a moment to review your scales, your intervals, your triads, and your sevenths. So if you feel like you're not very familiar with triads or sevenths or with intervals, please go back, review those, do a quick review of that video, of that topic, so this way you can better understand what we're talking about in this video. All right, let's get started. So let's take a look at this chord. I'm going to play this up an octave so you can hear what that sounds. So this chord is an A minor minor seventh chord. Okay, we know that it's an A minor minor seventh chord because we know how a seventh chord is constructed. The triad is a minor. So that's the first part. The second part is the interval of the seventh, which is also minor. So that's how we know that this is an A minor minor seventh chord. Okay. So what about this chord? All right. What is this? Okay. Well, some of you might, on first appearance, take a look at this chord. You might watch that bottom note and you might say, oh, okay, well that's an E. So this must be some type of E chord. All right. Which means that that E must be the root of the chord. However, you couldn't be more wrong. Okay, that E is not the root of the chord. Remember, anytime you see a chord, a seventh chord, a triad that's out of order like this, you have to take it and you've got to stack it into thirds. All right. Only then can you really understand the nature of the chord as well as the name of the chord. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. All right, we're going to take those top two notes. We're going to throw them down there. That immediately puts them into the stacking them into thirds so that we can see, oh, wait a second, this definitely looks very familiar. It's actually our A minor minor seventh chord. All right, there we go. And there's the root. Okay, so what about this chord? You know, what's going on over here? How do we explain this? Well, this is actually an inversion of an A minor minor seventh chord. Okay, so we took the same kind of notes, we just put them in a different order. So you have to be careful so that when you see an inverted chord, you know how to identify it properly. All right, let's talk about the different types of inversions. Okay, now inversions are very popular. Composers really like to use them for different purposes, and they have different uses for them. As a matter of fact, you're probably going to find more inversions in pieces rather than root position chords. So the first type of inversion is known as first inversion. It's the same chord, so we have an A minor minor seventh chord in first inversion. Let's listen to what that would sound like up an octave. Okay, so it's the same harmony, it's just a little different. I took the root, I took it from the bottom, and I put it up on the top. Now here is also how it would be labeled. Okay, so I just chose a Roman numeral. Obviously it's lowercase because it's a minor chord, but notice it doesn't say 7, it says 6-5. So where did I get those numbers? 6-5. Those are the intervals above the bass, not above the root, but above the bass, which is the lowest note. All right, so I use the brackets so that you can see that from the bottom note to the top note, that's sixth, and from the bottom note to the next highest top note, that's a fifth. So that's where we get the 6-5 from. Now here's an A minor minor seventh chord in second inversion. So it's the same chord, the notes are in a different order. There's the root, so that you can see that that root is going to be in a different place every single time. Here's the label. So obviously the numbers have changed. 4-3, we get that because we have, it actually should be 6-4-3, but the 6 becomes rather redundant. So at this point we're leaving the 6 out. So we take the next couple of intervals, which is 4, a fourth above the bass, and then also a third above the bass. So this is second inversion. Next we have the A minor minor seventh chord in third inversion. Let's listen to that. So it's the same chord, just the notes are in a different order. There's the root in a different place. And when I label it, the 4-2, it actually should be 6-4-2, but of course, like I said, the 6 is redundant, so we leave the 6 out, and we focus on the 4th above the bass and a 2nd above the bass, as shown by the brackets. So here I wrote it out. So if it's in root position, you're just going to either write or see a 7. But if it's in first inversion, it'll be 6-5, second inversion will be 4-3, and third inversion will be 4-2. Rather than try to figure out the intervals, I say it's just easier to memorize this. Figure out where the root is, stick it into thirds, and then you can better identify what inversion you're dealing with. Another kind of trick is also to see that as the inversion goes up, as you have like second and third inversion, the numbers in the label go down. So 4-2 indicates more third inversion, 6-5 indicates first inversion. All right, now that we've talked about this and we've heard it a little bit, I recommend that you go to a keyboard, and play it yourself. You can even construct your own 7th chord, any kind of 7th chord, and then put it in different inversions. You can also look for an inversion or an inverted chord within a score, one of your favorite pieces, and try to play it and try to identify that inversion. All right, good luck, and more for later. Take care. Okay, now it's time for some helpful hints. All right, so let's take a look at this 7th chord right over here. Now, we know that this is a 7th chord. Is this in root position? It's actually not, because 7th chords in root position are supposed to be stacked in thirds. Okay, they should go from space to space to space, or line to line to line. Okay, so that's not what is happening here. All right, so we have this little step apart between these two notes. So we know that we are actually using an inversion. So this is a sign when we see notes that are a step apart. So how do we figure out what the inversion is and what kind of chord it is? Well, here's the thing about this step. So whenever we have this step, these two notes consist of the root and the 7th. The top note is the root, the bottom note is the 7th. Okay, so we know that this top note is F. Okay, so we know it's an F chord, and we know that the 7th is the E. So that is pretty self-explanatory. So now, how do we know what the inversion is? So here's a little trick for the inversions. So if the step is at the top, it's first inversion. If it's in the middle of the chord, it's second inversion. If it's on the bottom, it's third inversion. Okay, again, on the top it's first inversion, on the middle it's second inversion, and on the bottom it's third inversion. Okay, so if this is in fact an F chord, F 7th chord, let's go ahead and see if that stacks properly into thirds, which is exactly what you want to do to figure out what kind of chord you have. So if that works out, which in this case it did, it means you did it correctly. Okay. Now time for a quick check. So let's take a look at this chord. Let's see if you can figure out, based on what I told you in the helpful hints, what is the name of this chord, and let's see if you can figure out what inversion this is. Ready? Go. Did you figure it out? Okay, only unpause the video if you've really tried to figure it out, okay? So, here is my step. Remember, we see this step movement. It's not in thirds over here, it's in steps. So we know immediately that this is actually an inversion. Now, the top note is the root, the bottom note is the 7th. So what is that top note? Well, it is an A. All right, so if I take that A and I try to stack it into thirds, does it actually work? All right, lo and behold, it does. So we know that this is an A 7th chord. All right, so what type of 7th chord? We don't know yet, but we know that it's the name of the chord is A, because A is the root. All right, now, what inversion is this? Okay, so remember, look at where the step is. The step is in the middle of the chord, not at the top or the bottom. So top is first, middle is second, bottom would be third. So because it's in the middle of the chord, this is actually in second inversion. inversion. Okay, so let's write that in. And normally I wouldn't have the name here, I would have a Roman numeral. So if this would be a 5 chord, I would have a 5, and then I'd have to put a number over there to tell what kind of inversion is it. So what if I just said this is a 5, and what if I put the numbers in? So do you remember the numbers? This is another thing that you have to memorize. It would be 4, 3. 4, 3 equals second inversion. All right, so it's an A 4, 3, or if it was a 5, it would be a 5, 4, 3. We know it's an A 7th chord, and we know it's in second inversion. Okay, all right. Did you get the correct answer? If not, keep trying. You're gonna get it. Okay, just keep practicing that, and remember some of those helpful hints.